I'm going to be talking to you guys today about an animal welfare issue. I know all of you probably voted last in 2008 November about Prop 2. It's not about Prop 2, but it is still kind of in that vicinity. So my major claim today is going to be that in the livestock industry, particularly swine, that in the modern swine facilities, it's better to raise them in confinement facilities rather than having them be free-range. Some of my claims that I'm going to tell you about are basically that it protects, it minimizes the spread of disease as far as parasites and everything like that, that advancements in technology are what's also helping to make those facilities better than having them free-range, and also some of the economic benefits of it. So going back to my first claim, having them in the confinement facilities, the major ones I'm talking about are the ones with roof, not the hoop barns, which is kind of like an opening similar to the pasture. It has an actual roof, and they're actually on cement or on slated flooring, which means that they're above the ground, so when they defecate, it falls through the holes, so they're not actually wallowing in their filth like they would be, well, not all of them, but like they would be if they were outside in the pasture. It also cuts down on, let's say we were trying to eat some of the feces on the ground and it just happened to have roundworms in it, and then you have to deworm the whole herd of your pigs, and that's not very good. There's also ventilation systems that can help minimize odors that are coming from the facilities. There's always going to be an odor, but with the ventilation, it will help to cull like ammonia emissions and everything, so everybody's living in a healthier environment. Also, exposure to wildlife is reduced because wildlife do carry certain diseases. I'm not sure if you know about like dog diseases like leptospirosis or something like that they can get from contaminated water, where if you're inside and the water's coming from a pipe, there's less contamination risk there, and you don't have to worry about deworming again. Going on, advancements in technology that allow better care for the animals in the housing facilities are we can recycle the waste products. Like I'm saying, that the feces fall through the holes in the ground and they go out. There's actually lagoons outside of most of the housing facilities that so that the feces mixes with the water, and then that water can then again be used to fertilize fields that are around the area. So then you're kind of disposing of the waste that way instead of having to scoop it up and then you're dumping it somewhere where it's all dry and you can't use it like that. Also, there's specific uses for equipment. I know you might have heard of like farrowing crates that aren't very popular, but the actual purpose of that thing is to make sure that the mother pig doesn't squish her babies, because I mean she's like 400 pounds, the baby's like 4 pounds, and then when she goes to lay down, she doesn't always push them out of the way, so she'll lay on them and then they die and you have higher mortality. You're losing profit on that, so you kind of want the farrowing plates. They're not all like you see in the PETA ads where they're not moving. I mean, they do spread out so that the pig can back up and her baby can go away. Okay. And also some economic benefits for these facilities are that there are only a few pig producers that produce all the meat, or most of the meat for the whole country. Most of them are back east, and you don't really have enough. Well, there is a lot of room there, but I mean, you want a lot of room for fields so that you can grow food for your pigs. And if they're in the confinement area, there's more animals in that little space, so that then you have more room to grow food, and then it lowers your costs that way. And also it allows for more environmental control because it is colder back east. And although adult pigs like it to be a bit cooler, they like the winter weather and everything, a piglet can't really regulate its body temperature, so he's probably going to freeze if he farrows out in the snow. And basically that's my argument.
All right. Well, you've identified your proposition. You do have a preview that you offer us. There's a little bit of a problem with the proposition. You've got it phrased differently than on the outline or what you've got listed here. You present it as a value claim that something is better. And what's the factual criteria? That it's safer, that it's more economical, that it strengthens the farm community, that it protects the environment, but, more effectively. I think you need to stick to that sort of phrasing. In the context of the election last year, and I think you mentioned at one point the PETA ads. I think those probably could have been introduced earlier. You could explain why it is that you even need to talk about this issue to people. And the movement between the points was relatively clear. There's a lot of explanation about how this is supposed to work and why it's supposed to have a benefit. And I suspect that it probably does work and have those benefits, but I don't get any proof on that. I don't have information from farms that use these techniques that talk about how much longer or how many more piglets manage to reach maturity, or how many fewer cases of worms they have in their herds, or how much money they save because they're able to do this, or what their increased level of productivity is. I just have your explanation of what it's supposed to do, and then the claim that it's that it'll do that. And we need some proof on this, not just the explanation. If somebody came up and said, well, here's how this is supposed to work in order to increase the gas mileage on your car by 50%, and then they said, now buy it for $300, would you do that before they showed you that it worked? I think most of us would want to see some kind of data, proof, or an example, or something that shows us that it works. In theory, it sounds like a great idea, but where's the backup on that? And that's the biggest problem with the speech, is that it's claim, claim, claim without any grounds, and you need more of those grounds. I thought that the descriptions are pretty clear, but you're asking us again to believe things on the basis of assertion for the most part. You have a nice way of addressing the audience, and you've got more time, so there's plenty of time to introduce some of this evidence into the argument. All right, thank you.